you certainly have written a lot, and there's a lot talked about in our day about the idea of spiritual disciplines. But there's a lot of confusion
Well, there
around
is.
that notion also. What is a spiritual discipline, and why are they needed, and how are they helpful, and where do they get off track?
Well, you have to start with a general idea of a discipline, and because among other things, you want to, when we use it in the moral or spiritual realm, we tend to associate discipline with punishment.
Right.
No,
Yeah, I said people don't get all excited when you say
Not
we're going to
really.
talk about
Not really,
spiritual
and often
disciplines
they've
now.
had very bad experiences
Yep.
with it. And I was talking with a very distinguished man who's worldwide known for his ministry the other day, and discovered that he was very reticent to deal with spiritual disciplines in that terminology because of what he had experienced as disciplines as a young man in his religion, which was a very condemnatory, judgmental, harsh, and that was discipline.
Yeah.
Well, no wonder people don't. You have to think about discipline in music or sports or something that you enjoy, and you know that you have to have discipline in order to do it well. Discipline is basically anything that's in your power that you can do to enable you to do what you can't do just by trying. Whether
Anything
it's-
in your power that you can do,
You can
that
do.
will give you strength to do,
That's
what
right.
you can't do right now.
That's right. Speaking a language, for example. You can't just try to speak Greek. Right?
Yeah.
Well, you can try, but you won't get anywhere. But there is a process that you can come to speak it, or any language for that matter.
Yep.
Music's the same way. You can't just sit down one day and decide, I'm going to play Beethoven's Appassionata Sonata on the piano. But if you're willing to devote yourself to learning, you can at some point come to do that. That's discipline. And discipline takes hold in the context of a vision of a good to be achieved. And then in the light of that vision, you make a decision. You don't drift into discipleship to Jesus. You make a decision.
Yeah,
But
I
you
was
have to have the vision, or you can't make the decision.
thinking about how often when people hear the phrase spiritual disciplines, they'll think about a lifeless, non-animated, passionless person. But when you think about it in these terms, NFL players
Yes.
are, some of the great ascetics of our day.
Absolutely right.
Because they have such a passionate vision of what it would look like to win the Super Bowl.
That's right.
And so they're willing to arrange their life around how do I eat and how do I exercise and what do I do so that I could have what I can't do right now by direct effort.
Well, and if you just try to do what they do, you'll wind up with a bunch of sore muscles at best and nothing more. But if you adopt their pattern of life, then depending on your natural abilities, you can make progress at least towards what they do. And so no one groans about disciplines as righteousness in those areas. They know that disciplines are not always pleasant, but actually you can learn to enjoy the effort and even the pain in discipline because of the vision you have
Right.
and what you know it's going to bring
For
to
the
pass.
joy that is set before them.
That's exactly
you're saying that
right.
Just as
Jesus did that.
being a great running back or a great lineman involves certain disciplines, then growing in patience or growing
Right.
in love, where I think so
Right.
many people, they hear that and they just think, well, I got to try harder to be patient or try
That's
harder to be
right.
loving.
That's right. Or a good case here, because humility is so important in the spiritual life, is learning to be humble. Now, if you just try to be humble, you won't get very far with it. But there are things you can do that will help you be humble. For example, you can stop pretending. And that will do wonders for your humility. You'll have to practice that. But that's something that with maybe a little help you could do. And if you do that, then you're going to find that your capacity to not elevate yourself above others and to be domineering and arrogant and so on, you're going to find that it remarkably diminishes those, because so much of our arrogance depends upon pretense. and eliminating that. The practice of not presuming on things, like presuming on what I deserve.
Yeah.
You can get out of that, and that'll help your humility. So there are things that you can do in any area. Now, we do need to add that in the spiritual life, as distinct from the ordinary life, grace always works with discipline, so that you're becoming able to do what you cannot do by direct effort is always assisted by God's action in your life. See, as we said earlier, grace is God acting in our lives to accomplish what we can't do on our own. Perfect match with discipline.
So that's, John Wesley used to use the phrase means of grace.
Yes, that's right.
Means, kind of vehicles,
That's right.
conduits where power and grace can get poured
That's
into
right.
us.
And that was because when you put yourself in a position through spiritual disciplines to receive grace, it comes in. All of the great things in the spiritual life, we're not waiting on God for most of those, we're waiting on us.